some say Gunnar. It's Gunnar, Myrdal, Myrdal. Myrdal. And his classic work is called The American Dilemma. It's a classic book. And his primary premise in that book is that America has a dilemma. And that dilemma is what to do about the race issue, what to do with its black citizenry. And the reason it's a dilemma, he says, because we boast of, here we go, we got a constitution that talks about equality and justice and all these wonderful things. But here you have this big group of people, at that time that was the biggest minority here, and it doesn't fit. So how do you reconcile the two? That's the thesis of this book. But I'm taking a quote from this book, and it sets up the class. He says, and I'll try to Xerox this for you, but you can write it down. Since power and prestige are scarce commodities in the Negro community, we use the word Negro back then. Since power and prestige are scarce commodities in the Negro community, the struggle for leadership often becomes ruthless. Prestige is all, and that is, and you can't talk about, we still teach this class, it's a very good class. Black psychology. There is a certain psychological stance of African Americans, and again, it's because of where they come from, their experiences in this nation. And that's why to this day, we kind of getting out of it, but we're big about flash, about you seeing us, because for so long we were invisible. Status is everything. I went to school with Vanderbilt. There were millionaires over there. You wouldn't know it just looking at them. When we have money, you're going to know it. Through the symbols, the cars we drive, how we dress. And what do you think from the black church? We're going to talk about the church in here too. The black church, when we go to church, we dress a certain way.
Ooh, yeah, they do.
You go to a white church, sometimes they come in, with sneakers on, blue jeans, whatever. There's a reason behind that. And again, it's because of the historical factor. Back in the day, you didn't have any title, you didn't have anything. You worked, I was a little girl, I would be out on my front porch or in my yard playing, and I would see, how many of you saw that movie made? I would see ladies dressed like that, getting off the bus, coming from work. They have worked all day at the white woman's house, taking care of her children, cleaning her toilet, sometimes cooking, doing all that, blah, blah, blah. And on her way home to do it the same thing for her own house. So my point is, that's what you did every day. You wore a uniform, you wore those white shoes or whatever. Come Sunday morning, that was your time to shine. Now you got to wear your hat, your gloves, and you had a title. You are mother this, and missionary this, and reverend this, and deacon this, and do you get the point? Mm-hmm. So that's why titles are so important, even till today. And that's why we still dress up when we go to church. So my point, you didn't have any status on an everyday. Most of the time they just call you by your first name. So you didn't get the title of Mr. or Mrs. in most instances. So my point, what is this man saying in this quote? Prestige was a scarce commodity in the African American community. And that meant that leadership, the contention for leadership became ruthless. We're going to see the fighting for people, that's the point. Who is the spokesperson? Who is the leader of the black community? You're going to see a great fight. It got real ugly between W.E.B. and who was the other person? Booker T. It got ugly. And it got uglier to me between who? W.E.B. Because they were fighting for that power and that prestige. Who is, excuse the expression, the HNIC? That's where it comes from. Do y'all get it? It's a real phenomenon in the African American community, and that's what this man is saying. Because it's so scarce, everybody's fighting for it. And it has gotten ugly. So if you're fighting for the same thing, why you just can't have somebody say, why can't we just work together? So everybody is vying for that position. This is what Gunnar Myrdal said in The American Dilemma. What time is it? Time to go? We got 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. Everybody clear? We'll come back to that. We're going to see this as we go through the class. Harold Cruz is another wonderful African American writer. His book was called The Crises of the Negro Intellectual. Don't get offended by that word because back in the day, that's what we were called. Okay. Harold Cruz, C-R-U-S-E. The Crises of the Negro Intellectual. You don't have to write this down, I just want you to listen because we'll be, if you can write his name down, if you want to go and look at the piece, but what I'm getting ready to read. His quote says, the American Negro history is basically a history of the conflict between the integrationists and nationalist forces in politics, economics, and culture. No matter what leaders are involved and what the slogans are used. He said we fall into the integrationist force and the nationalist force. We kind of alluded to that earlier. There are those who have always advocated working with them and working within the system. That's the integrationists. While others have said, So we're going to see some of those. Martin Luther King was definitely an integrationist, is that correct? And some of these other leaders. But people like Farrakhan, that's why they call them the nation, is that right, of Islam. They have their separate community, they have their separate religion, they have their separate, the way that they do things. So according to Cruz, I don't care what the names were, whatever the slogans were, it usually falls into these two camps of thought. What schools? Integrationists and what? Nationalists. Last one we finish. This is a quote from James Baldwin. All these are prolific quotes. This is what Baldwin said. I want you to listen to this one real good. The problem of Negro leadership has always been extremely delicate, dangerous, and complex. He said the term itself becomes remarkably difficult to define. The moment one realizes that the real role of the Negro leader in the eyes of the American Republic was not to make the Negro a first-class citizen, but to keep him content as a second-class one. That's a powerful statement. And somebody touched on that earlier. We're going to see, because some people said the major anomaly of black leadership is in most cases blacks have not chosen their own leader. Their leader was thrust upon them. They were told who their leaders were. We had a provost, and I'm ending on this point. We had a provost here some years ago. He was a white provost. Not the one that just left, this was years ago. We had a convocation, which we have around here. It was Martin Luther King Day. He did the speech, and the speech said, what do white people love about MLK? I'm going to leave it on that note and think about it. That's where we're going to pick. That was the title of his speech.